Hello art lovers, welcome back to the Art History Hobbyist. I'm so glad you're here with me today. As you can see, I'm working on another odalisque-inspired painting, a subject that has captivated artists and audiences for centuries. But today we're taking a closer look at the cultural lens through which odalisques have been portrayed in art. Our topic is Orientalism and the odalisque. Together, we'll uncover how Orientalism shaped these depictions and what it reveals about Western attitudes toward Eastern cultures. It's a fascinating and multi-layered subject, so grab your favorite drink, relax, and let's dive into this intersection of art, history, and cultural perspective. What is Orientalism? The term was popularized by Edward Said in his 1978 book, Orientalism. In essence, Orientalism describes how Western cultures have historically represented the East, regions like the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Asia. But here's the key. These representations weren't necessarily accurate. They were often shaped by stereotypes, exaggerations, and fantasies, creating a romanticized image of the East as a place of mystery, sensuality, and opulence. This wasn't about capturing reality, it was about reflecting Western ideas about the East. And that's where the odalisque comes in. So what is an odalisque? The word comes from the Turkish odalik, meaning chambermaid or female servant in the Ottoman Empire. In reality, odalisques were attendants in harems, private, domestic spaces for women in a household. But in Western art, the odalisque became much more than that. She transformed into a symbol of exotic beauty, sensuality, and leisure. Reclining amidst luxurious fabrics, adorned with silks and jewels, the odalisque was a product of Western imagination rather than an accurate depiction of life in the harem. Take Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres' Grand Odalisque, 1814, as an example. This painting shows a reclining nude surrounded by rich fabrics and exotic details like a peacock fan and hookah. Ingres wasn't trying to portray an actual harem. Instead, he blended classical techniques with Orientalist elements to create an alluring, idealized image of femininity. Now, you might be wondering, why were Western artists so fascinated with the East? The answer lies in colonialism. During the 18th and 19th centuries, European nations expanded their empires into the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia, bringing with them a sense of curiosity, but also domination. As European powers exerted political and economic control over these regions, they also developed a cultural fascination with them. Art, literature, and theater became saturated with images of bazaars, deserts, and harems. But these depictions often reinforced stereotypes of the East as decadent, mysterious, and in need of Western influence. The odalisque, as a recurring subject in Orientalist art, reflected this cultural dynamic. She became a visual symbol of the East's perceived sensuality and passivity, something exotic to be admired and consumed by the West. At the same time, the Romantic movement was flourishing, emphasizing emotion, imagination, and the exotic. Artists like Eugène Delacroix embraced these themes, creating vivid, dramatic works that combined Orientalist fantasies with romantic ideals. Delacroix's Women of Algiers in Their Apartment, 1834, is a perfect example. This painting depicts richly dressed women lounging in an opulent interior. The scene feels intimate, yet theatrical, inviting the viewer into a world that's both alluring and inaccessible. But here's the thing. Delacroix, like many Orientalist painters, didn't have first-hand knowledge of the cultures he depicted. His work was based on sketches, second-hand stories, and his own imagination. As a result, paintings like this tell us more about Western fantasies than about Eastern realities. Let's take a moment to talk about the male gaze. Most Orientalist depictions of odalisques were created by male artists for male audiences. The odalisque was often portrayed as passive, reclining and exposed, inviting the viewer to look, but not to engage. This dynamic wasn't just about aesthetics. It reflected a broader cultural narrative that framed the East and Eastern women as objects to be consumed, controlled, and admired. The odalisque, with her luxurious surroundings and inviting pose, became a visual shorthand for these ideas. Even as I work on this painting, I'm aware of how much these images were constructed to appeal to specific desires and fantasies. It's a fascinating but also deeply complicated aspect of art history. Today, the odalisque remains a popular subject in art, but with a twist. Contemporary artists and scholars are revisiting the odalisque to challenge the stereotypes and power dynamics embedded in these historical depictions. Some modern artists use the odalisque to explore themes of identity and representation, reimagining her through a lens of empowerment or cultural authenticity. Others critique the colonial and patriarchal frameworks that shape traditional Orientalist art, turning the odalisque into a space for dialogue and reflection. It's a powerful reminder that art isn't static. It evolves with the times, reflecting new questions, values, and perspectives. In this mesmerizing portrait, Leah arises as an intoxicating vision of power and allure. A goddess cloaked in cascading silks and shimmering metallics that catch the light like captured moonbeams. Her gaze, unyielding and magnetic, pierces through the ornate splendor around her, as though daring the onlooker to unlock the mysteries of her world. Her pose is a perfect harmony of regality and seduction, framed by intricate golden details that murmur tantalizing stories of distant lands veiled in mystique. With raven black hair cascading like ink and bronzed, luminous skin glowing with otherworldly allure, Leah embodies the essence of the odalisque archetype. Yet the odalisque is no mere figure of idle luxury. Historically, the term described attendants of the Ottoman imperial harem, women whose lives, both factual and fantastical, were reshaped into fodder for Western imaginations. In the salons of Europe, they became icons of submission and sensuality, perched at the intersection of reality and exoticism. But Leah defies this mold entirely. Far from being a passive vessel of desire, her unrelenting gaze and commanding aura shatter the confines of objectification. She claims her place as both muse and master, redefining the odalisque with bold, modern authority. This painting echoes the opulent heights of 19th century Orientalism, an artistic movement born of Europe's obsession with the exotic and unfamiliar. During this period, masters like Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres and Eugène Delacroix conjured sumptuous visions of Eastern splendor, weaving escapism into every stroke. Leah's lavish surroundings, the gilded circular frame, the angelic motifs reverently circling her, mirror the decorative indulgence of these masterpieces. Yet, her portrayal pushes the boundaries, bridging the historical with the contemporary in a provocative reinterpretation. Orientalist art often danced on the line between reality and fantasy, celebrating beauty and detail while perpetuating reductive stereotypes. Leah's presence strides into this charged legacy, refusing to be tethered by it. Her strength and autonomy dismantle the worn-out tropes of objectification, elevating her to the status of a modern icon, a muse of resilience, complexity, and empowerment. She transcends the boundaries that her predecessors inhabited, rising as a beacon of artistic evolution. As we explore the rich tapestry of the odalisque's legacy, Leah emerges as much more than a symbol of beauty. She is a bridge that spans centuries, linking the ideals of the past with the insights of the present. Her jeweled attire and commanding poise reimagine the odalisque not as an object of passive admiration, but as a dynamic force of agency and transformation. Through Leah, we are called to reflect on the shifting narratives of women in art and the enduring intrigue of Orientalist aesthetics. The odalisque's journey through art history is deeply tied to the story of Orientalism. While these paintings are undeniably beautiful, they also reveal the complexities of cultural exchange, power, and representation. Thank you for joining me today on this exploration of Orientalism and the odalisque. If you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about these depictions? Until next time, keep creating, keep questioning, and let's continue discovering the stories behind the art, one brushstroke at a time.